100% pass rates on the Regents exams, and I taught 3 different levels. And that included kids that with IEPs, kids with that were ENLs. I just know how to prep people for exams. So I need you to shift from the anxious brain to the curious brain. And trust me, this is our 7th round at the rodeo. We've done this 7 times. So with the feedback that we've gotten, and we've kind of refined it every time along the way, people say, after this part of it, you got to trust me. Thank God, this was so much better. Okay, so trust the process. So you're going to trust me, right?
Yes.
So we're going to go back to the research, back to TLCI, when we talked about John Hattie and collective teacher efficacy. What that really means is the teachers in this room, Dr. Gonzalez, Dr. Lando, and not Dr. Tom. I don't have my doctorate yet. And Ed, I almost slipped with that one. Efficacy means it starts with us believing in you, right? So it doesn't matter if you're a young child learning or you're an adult learner. It's the same philosophy. So we have full confidence in this cohort that you're going to kill the exam.
Yeah.
Right? That belief system is powerful. The second part of that efficacy is, do you believe in your instructors? Right? Do you believe in Reggie, Ramon, and myself? Right? Do you trust the process when we say trust the process? Right? We have a very high success rate. So that's anxious brain. Exhale. Exhale. Now follow my lead and listen closely. What I want you to do first is put your laminates away. Trust the process. I know how to prep people. Trust the process. No laminates. We're going to quiz you, and we're going to see what your current state is. We're going to see where you're at, and you're going to get a very good idea on which laminates you need to spend more time on. Does that make sense? Because if you're looking at the laminates and you're just transferring, I see it now, and that's not telling you much. That's not telling you what you need to go home and study. But if you're like, oh my God, Ed asked me a question on ORID and I didn't know a single thing about ORID, that's what you have to go home and study. Does that make sense? So that's the process. Here we go. First quiz. You've seen it before. We've used this same question in the practicum. So I want you to just independently write down what you think. How would you respond to this if this shows up on the assessment tomorrow? How would you respond to this question if this showed up on your test tomorrow, right? So sit there, have your own paper, no laminates, no where you're at current state and where you want to be. Trust me, we will close that gap by the end of today. Close that gap. And by the way, during the exam, you have plenty of time. Right? So it's not like the SATs where you have like 60 questions to answer in 50 minutes. You have all the time in the world to process this. Right? So I first want you to try to answer it without any information. And you're going to be able to assess where you're at with this question. Just look up at me when you have some answers written down and you think you know the answers, so I can move on. So, as your teacher, this is how I would prep you. Look at the question and what is the key triggers in this question. What are the words that jump out at you? And we kind of made it simple. What did we do? We underlined and highlighted, for God's sakes.
Right, and both.
So what's one word that tells you something? Three. Stop. Just stay right there for a second. So if you're thinking of something, let's just say, I'm just throwing it out there, success pyramid, and that's how many? 4. That's not what we're asking. Right. So 3 tells you something. It's got to be something on the laminates that results in 3. What's the next thing that you see in this question? Coaching and? Foundations. Coaching foundations. What do we start? We start global. We start big picture. We start big umbrella, right?
Yes.
Now, I want you to think about this. When you think big picture, big umbrella, what's the laminate that comes to mind when you think umbrella? That everything falls under. What's the laminate?
Oh, I don't know if this is the right answer, but I just remember the map, the car, and the compass.
There you go. Yeah. Right. It's the pie, right?
Right. I don't remember what it is, but I remember the map.
So it's the pizza pie. Right?
Yeah.
So again, this is as global as you get.
Yes.
This is the first slide. This is as global as you get. This is big picture.
Coaching.
Right? So when we ask you the word foundations, think about it. Doesn't it it should connect with you and say, they're talking about big picture. They're talking about the big theories, the big concepts, right? These are the big theories and concepts. We went right into guiding principles. Then we went into competencies. And under competencies is? Success pyramid. You see how we did that? We scaffolded.
Yeah.
We said, then we talked about competencies, and that's success pyramid. That's listening and questioning. Oh, questioning. When we talk about questioning, we're talking about? Orid. You see how I scaffold everything? It's like boom, boom, boom. 3 levels, right? That's how you need to think. That's how you condition your brain to process.
So you said under the coaching competencies is a success.
We'll get to that.
Oh.
Trust the process, right? So let's stay here for it. Here's the word, foundations. I want you to connect the word foundations with this image. This is big picture. Ed is talking about the umbrella. What does everything fall under? The foundations, right?
Yep.
Quiz number 2. Independently, write your answers down. I want to quiz you right now. I want to see where you're at, current state. And when you're done, just look up at me so that I know that we're ready to go. No laminates. Check your current state. See where you're at with each of these concepts. Right? And it'll really direct you as to what you need to study tonight. Okay? Ready to go?
Yes.
So again, same process. What are the key words that you see bold and highlighted? And go ahead, Megan.
4.
She says 4. So whatever I'm thinking about, I better have 4. If I have 6, that's not what I'm talking about. If I have 3, that's not what he's asking. This results in 4. Right? And then what's the next word that jumps out? Core competencies. Coaching competency.
Yeah.
So when you hear competencies, what's the laminate?
Pyramid.
Success pyramid.
Pyramid. Okay.
When you hear competencies, you think of the pyramid. And by the way, I love when Dr. Gonzalez corrects people. A pyramid is not a triangle. A triangle has how many sides?
3.
A pyramid has
4.
4. Oh. There's a method to this madness. That's why it's not the success triangle. It's a success pyramid. Because we have 4 components to the competencies. A pyramid is 4-sided. A triangle is 3-sided. Right? So we think core competencies. You better have this down. Right? When I ask you about the 4 core coaching competencies, you better think the success pyramid, and you better think coaching presence, my ability to relate, and then active listening, and leveraging highly effective questioning, right? So those 4 things better jump out at you when you hear 4 core coaching competencies, right? In order to be a highly effective coach, you better have these competencies. Yes?
Yes.
3. Now we're getting deep. Now we're getting a little harder. But trust the process. I got you. I'm going to teach you how to, just like when we have our kids and they have these big word problems and they get scared, right? Because there's a lot of words on the page and they think they were in math class, but why are there so many words? It's not English, right? We teach them how to break down the problem. So we're going to teach you how to break down this problem. So let's try this. If you see this on the test tomorrow, what would your answers be? Don't worry, I will unpack it for you. I'll break it down, but I want to test what your current state is. I want to test where you're at with this right now.
Well, you just said presence.
You will feel it much better after I review it, but I want to see where you're at right now. How well do you know the competencies? Okay. And I'm not talking about just listing the 4 competencies. I'm talking about when you flip that laminate over, and you have the details of those competencies, how well do you know that? Right? And if Ed is going over that, then it's probably important for me to know. Right? So I'm not just asking you, you're going to need to know how to list the 4 competencies, but now I need you to flip that laminate when you get home and know the backside. Right? Otherwise, we wouldn't waste our time. I have a limited amount of time of going over certain things, and I wouldn't be going over with you if it wasn't relevant. All right. What are the key words, ladies and gentlemen, that you see in this question?
First.
Okay, so that's important. That's key. And don't worry, I will teach you how to unpack it. The first core competency cluster, right? And the 2 related competencies under that cluster. So you have a cluster, and then under that cluster, there's 2 of the 4 competencies, yes? Because we know competency is 4, right? So we're saying first cluster, what the hell is Ed talking about? He's really talking about that first column in the back, right? Damn, but I didn't remember what that first cluster was. It's okay. We're going to know after this, right? The next question, can you guess what the next question is going to be?
The second.
What's the second cluster? Right? Oh, so isn't that logical? Ed is asking us first cluster and the 2 competencies that fall under that. Then he's going to ask us about the second cluster and the 2 competencies under that. We got to remember the headings, right? Under that. You see how I unpack this for you? All right, so here we go. So this is the flip side of your success pyramid, right? And I know that sometimes we gloss over and we don't spend enough time paying attention to words. So if you look at that laminate, it actually says clusters.
Yes.
Competency clusters. Right? So what do you think the first core competency cluster is?
Co-create a
There you go.
relationship.
So look it up here, ladies and gentlemen. That's cluster 1. Does this make sense to everybody? And then the 2 competencies under that cluster,
Relating and coaching presence.
right, is here. What's cluster 2?
Making meaning with others.
And what are the 2 competencies that
Question and listening.
allow you to make meaning with others? Your ability to listen well and your ability to ask the right questions. Doesn't that make sense?
Yes.
Right? Now you feel a little better, a little less anxious? Now we're moving away from the anxious brain? Right? We are not here to fool you. We're not going to trick you. Right? So now we're clear, right? I'm moving on because now you know what to study.
Yeah.
So here we go. Write the 4 components of Orient. What's the key word here?
4.
4. So don't give me 3. Don't give me 6. Don't give me 4. Yeah, give me 4. Give me 4. Don't give me 2. Don't give me 6. Don't give me 3. I want 4. Right? And Orid. All right? Orid. We got those, remember? Remember the Orid laminate? The O, the R, the I, and the D, Megan? The O, the R. Right?
That's all.
Country line dance.
What's up? What's happening? What matters? What matters?
Yes.
How do you feel? What do we do about it? How do you respond? You see how things just come back to you? Like the old questions, right? You're exploratory. What's up? What's happening, right? So you better remember this.
Objective.
So when we ask you about Orid, and by the way, which competencies are we testing when we go over Orid?
Questions.
Orid is always questions. Are we asking objective questions? Are we asking interpretive questions? Are we asking decisional questions? Right? Orid is always tied to the competency of questions. Yes?
Yes.
Is this helpful?
Yes.
All right, we feeling a little better?
Yes.
All right, you see how we scaffold? Right? So again, this can also be a PD on how we scaffold learning, right? Scaffolding learning. This is how we scaffold. This is how we unpack it for the children. This is what you want your teachers to do. Unpack it. Don't trick them. Make it simple. Help them understand the connections. All right? And remember the questions that are tied into the questions. Like, so if it says objective question, you're really asking what's happening. Right? Are we, ladies, you listening?
Yes.
Here's my my
Yes.
strategies,
She
right?
needed
No,
This is one of the.
We need a lot of tricks to the trade. So when you say objective questions, you're really remembering the question, what's happening? You're inquiring to see what's happening. When you're asking interpretive question, you're asking, what does this mean? Or why does it matter? Right? Interpretive. When you're asking reflective questions, that's the heart. Those are the feeling questions. Like we said, it's a red flag, non-negotiable. You have to ask feeling questions in your coaching session, right? And that means, how am I feeling, and what are the feelings behind it? And then last but not least, decisional questions is, what do we do? Right? What's next? What do we do? And do we see how all of that also ties into phase 1, phase 2, phase 3? What are the 3 C's?
Context,
Context, content, conduct.
And we see how these questions connect to that, right? Decisional is what?
conduct,
Objective is what?
Context.
So you see how interpretive, reflective?
content,
Right?
You
So
said
do
decisional is which?
conduct.
conduct.
Right? It's what we do. It's taking informed action, right? That's the conduct. Here we go. So know the flip side, right? What are you trying to understand when you're asking interpretive data? What are you trying to understand when you're asking objective data? So these slides are great because when they're color-coded and they're bold, there's a reason why they're color-coded and they're bold, right? Right? And didn't I just ask you this question? When you're asking objective questions, you're under the first C, contextual awareness. Right? Interpretive and reflective, conceptual clarity, content, right?
Yes.
Conceptual clarity. That's phase 2. And then phase 3 is taking informed action. What do we do? What's the conduct? Right? So it all scaffolded. You see how everything's scaffolded? It's not about memorizing. It's being able to connect everything. Right? We don't want you to go home and memorize. All right. Try this out. Quiz 5. And I want to go back to what Dr. Lando, when he was breaking down the written exam format. This is part 2 of matching, right? This is what he means by matching, right? So you wouldn't need to memorize it so that you're listing, but you need to be able to match which one with what, right? Is that helpful? So this is part 2 of the exam, where you're asked to match. It's called recognition, right? When you recognize what goes with what. What's up? What matters, right? What's next? And then for each of the phases, right, underneath it says, under the work, right? What is the outcome objective, right? And that's this, right? Which one is aligned, learn for knowledge? Which one is learn for perspective? Which is learn from experience, right? Oh, what are the keywords? Let's go back. What are the giveaways? The words that you would pay attention to when you're answering this tomorrow?